Well, good morning. We'll get started. Unit 103. This is an exciting session. We have some interesting things to talk about today. It's a big piece of the assignment for the course that we'll be discussing. And so I want to talk about first, though, yesterday we had some interesting, challenging learning activities. We did our Teach to Learn conversations. There were some very good conversations around the concept of quality and our 14 points. And then also we worked on our move to improve as well as what is quality. And we had some interesting definitions around both personal quality and organizational quality. I'm just going to go across my screen right now and ask. So Megan, tell me about what you ran into when you're talking to people about your organization's definition of quality.
I kind of found that everyone has a different opinion on quality. Could be quality of work, could be quality of products, quality of food, depending on what department you talk to.
Hmm. So how does that show up then as people work together when they have different definitions of quality?
You definitely collaborate a lot. Um, I feel like it's kind of a trial and error. Um, you try different products, you find out that they don't work, or the residents don't like the food. Cleaning products you might find leave more of a residue because it has a shorter kill time. Um, I don't know, I just kind of feel it's like everyone kind of trial and errors.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you've talked about some specific requirements for um, elements of the organization, parts of the organization, and not an entire organizational definition of quality. When you talk to people, it's like they're focused on their own particular area. That's what quality is, and not necessarily how everybody works together to produce quality as an organization. So that was one of the things that I noticed in what you were sharing. Is like, oh, okay, we got little bits and pieces here, but nobody has an overall coordinated. How do they all fit together to provide an overall organizational level of quality? Denise, what did you guys run into?
Well, my audience was my staff educator we had previously shared an office because I came from the assistant director of nursing position to this position a few years ago. And
Hmm.
I just asked her what is quality, and her answer was very similar to mine. I, find myself seeking out the people that I'm similarly minded to, and so I definitely need to step outside the box. So hers was, look, like you mentioned yesterday, our customers are not only our employees, but of course our residents and our resident families. And she's very, all of her answers are very customer resident driven. So she
Hmm.
even used the same word as sustainable that I had used in my definition, which I found odd. So I'm going to make sure that my Teach to Learn today is somebody who I don't expect to be like-minded to my answer.
Excellent. Joe, what is your experience with that?
I had more of taking pride in your work, doing things to the best of your ability, kind of more than the residents.
Okay, so quality in that realm is how you're operating yourself versus the results you're producing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Heidi.
Um, I interviewed two people for the quality question, and one person said that doing a daily job correctly is good quality.
Okay.
And then another person I interviewed said our nursing home, is rated by our five-star quality measures, which rates nursing homes on health inspections, staffing, and all the quality measures. So,
Okay, so a five-star rating essentially is quality in that person's perspective, right?
right, yeah,
Okay,
five being
No,
above average quality and
I
one
got it.
being the lowest.
I
Yeah.
got it. Danny, can you adjust your camera just a little? I just see your forehead right now. There you go. That's good. Yep. That better. Yep. Now we can't hear you right now.
There. So
There you go.
I asked our corporate compliance director what
Uh-huh.
our facility's definition of quality was.
Yes.
She said that Oakview doesn't have a specific definition of quality, and she referred me to the QAPI standards, so the Quality Assurance Performance Improvement Standards. And that's just basically about improving quality. It doesn't specify either what quality is, but I did take from that that maybe the purpose could be our facility's definition of quality, but Megan and I work at the same facility, so
Mm-hmm.
I got kind of the same thing.
Now that's interesting that there's not a definition of quality except for improving quality. So if you don't have a definition of what quality is, what are we working on improving? You're kind of in a interesting dilemma there, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
found
it.
that
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just found that interesting too, that how can we improve upon something that we don't have a clear definition of? So.
Exactly. And we find that in most arenas is we may not have a definition of quality, or if we do, it might be relatively unclear. It might be more like a motivational poster kind of approach, or everybody has their own definition, and who knows what that produces when we start interacting. Everybody trying to produce their own version of quality, it might not be contributing. You know, somebody that's doing purchasing requirements might see quality as saving money, and somebody else might say, I need high quality products that do things that might not cost quite as much, but in the long run, they're better for us, and so on. So we might have interacting definitions of quality that are not necessarily contributing to the same result. One of the reasons we ask this is, first of all, it's important to look at, well, what do I think about quality? And then the other is, am I working in an organization that understands what quality is at an organizational level? And I think we might have learned something in our conversation with just a few people in the organization. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a powerful part of the entire system of profound knowledge. And it's fundamental to your work with your plan, do, study, act cycles, your move to improve work. And it's the theory of knowledge. We do not cover the theory of knowledge except through mind mapping in the course. So we don't have a unit that's specifically for theory of knowledge. So this part of it is going to be one of those things that you're going to have to be a self-starter on. It'll be easy to ignore your mind map as we talk about it, and you'll want to make sure that as the request for mind mapping is, work on it a little bit daily. It'll be easy, very easy, but don't overlook that. Don't think I'll just do that tomorrow, or I'll do it all at the end of the unit when I need to turn it in, sort of thing. So we'll cover more of that, but theory of knowledge, again, is we're only covering it through our PDSA work and our mind mapping. Then, of course, we've discussed what moves do we want to make, and today I'm going to ask you to actually make that move, whatever that move is that you selected. I'm going to test this move. We're going to do that, and we'll begin to do our mind map. Now, I went out to LinkedIn and asked one of the people on LinkedIn, who's a well-known author around the lean world, to talk about, well, what is your definition of quality? Because I'd like to share. I shared definitions that were older from well-known writers in the world of quality, and I wanted to get someone from more of today's world to talk about quality. So here's what Katie said. She said. Here, let me pull this up a little bit bigger. The quality is defined by the user or customer based on what they find valuable or important. There are multiple dimensions on how quality can be assessed. Speed, cost, quality, convenience, service, and different users might find quality differently. An organization can set quality standards for products, but they should be defined based on what is needed for the customer. So again, even the experts don't necessarily agree on what is quality. And even people writing in a world that is based on how do we produce quality at the organizational level has different opinions than others that are well known in those areas. So we're going to begin our exploration of the theory of knowledge. Dr. Deming told us that there's no substitute for knowledge, and he reminded us that information itself is not knowledge. So then we have to ask ourselves, well, what is knowledge? And if information isn't knowledge, well, you know, what is? And it'd be helpful to know a definition of knowledge. So here's Dr. Deming's definition of knowledge. And I'm going to ask you to take out a piece of paper, find something to sketch on while we're working on this. And I'm going to ask you to show it to the camera here in a minute. Dr. Deming said, knowledge is built on theory. A theory of knowledge teaches us that a statement, if it conveys knowledge, predicts future outcomes with risk of being wrong, and that it fits without failure observations of the past. So let's think about that for a minute. So we're standing here in the current present, and what does past data have to do with our understanding of, you know, a theory of knowledge or a statement that has knowledge? What if we're making a statement, what do past observations have to do? Anybody?
Is it like referring to past mistakes?
Well, we could look at past mistakes. We could look at, okay, I believe something. And if I look at what's happened in the past, the something I believe has to say, well, I think this is true. Those past mistakes didn't go with what I think is true, so they made a mistake. So in some fashion, the past has to fit what we're saying today. We can look back and say, okay, everything I'm saying about, for instance, Megan, you talked about a cleaning product. So in every surface, on every with every skin type, whatever it is that you're looking at, this product behaved the way I wanted it to, and I can look at past data and say, yes, it did. Right. So that's a piece of past data. Then you say, well, with this thing in the future, when I try it over there or over there or over there, it's going to work the same way. So I can make a prediction, and then I can test those predictions and say, yep, it fits. So that's how, when we have a statement that conveys knowledge, it fits what we've seen in the past, and it will predict accurately what's going to happen in the future. So that's what we're talking about in this relationship between past and future. So the past is data we've collected. The future is predictions that we can test. So Deming said there's no substitute for knowledge. So what are substitutes for knowledge? These are things that we should understand and appreciate, because we often use these in our organization. In fact, Denise and Joe, when you go to your meeting, see how many things show up here that are listed as substitutes for knowledge that we treat as this is knowledge. So what are common substitutes for knowledge? Well, these are things that Dr. Deming listed as common substitutes. Tables of data, information of all types, the more sources, the better. Test and labor-saving devices. Books and dictionaries. Remember, these are all substitutes that we use for knowledge. Gossip or the opinions of others. We liked this one a lot. Results. Our present style of management. And also benchmarking or copying. They're all treated as if they're sources of knowledge, and they don't fit our definition. So we might ask, how does one acquire knowledge? And Dr. Deming answered that question with, we modify theory, and thus we learn. So that's what you'll be doing with your move to improve process and eventually plan, do, study, act. We use a theory and then we modify it and test it. So what is meant by this statement? We modify theory and thus we learn. What do we mean by that? Anybody?
We make changes?
Yes, we make changes. And what's the source or reason we're making changes? Why do we do that?
We're
Make
trying to
things better.
correct a problem.
We're trying to correct a problem. What else?
Make things
sorry.
better.
Make things better. So we have a theory then. So there's a basis for, if I do this, things will get better. And the if I do this action is based on, that's my theory of how things work. Right? So we're looking at what is it that has us think things will get better. Well, that's our theory about things. Then we test it and say, well, our theory was right or our theory wasn't right. So that's what we mean by we can learn about a theory, we can modify it, and then make things better or improve things. Dr. Deming quoted Dr. Michael Twitty as saying, management in any form is prediction. And that includes plans, assumptions, and decisions. So this is interesting because a lot of people don't connect decision making with prediction. So why might we describe a decision as a prediction? So what are we doing when we're making it? Go ahead.
You're impacting behavior likely when you make some kind of decision. Honestly, behavior, I guess it depends on what the subject matter is, but you're predicting what the result will be based on the decision that you have made.
That's right, exactly. So I make a decision, and the decision you make is actually, usually is to take some kind of action, to do something. And then you predict, essentially you're saying I predict behavior or a result as a basis of that decision. But we very seldom frame it that way. Any other thoughts about why we describe a decision as a prediction? Danny, what are your thoughts? What do you think about that?
Why do we describe a decision as a prediction?
Yes. What's the similarity there? What's going on? What are we doing when we make a decision that's like a prediction?
Well, it's essentially what Denise just said, that you're basing your decision on, you could say, past events or predictable outcomes, basically. Things that you
Exactly.
know are going to happen. Yeah, well.
Yes. Yeah. And frequently, however, we have managers that like to make decisions and they from the gut or based on some version of intuition or experience. And yet they don't realize that they're actually functioning with a theory that their brain is using, but they feel they have some other reason for describing it that way. But it's still a prediction no matter how we approach it. So let's talk again about this. So returning to Dr. Deming's definition of knowledge, a statement, if it conveys knowledge, predicts future outcomes with risk of being wrong, and it fits without failure observations of the past. So I'd like you just to simply recreate, like draw this on your piece of paper, like draw this diagram that's on the bottom of the screen. So take out a piece of paper. In the middle of it, draw a red box. You don't have to have red, but you can do it with any color that says statement conveying knowledge, and then draw the arrow to the left and write the words fits without failure, and then draw the box past observations on the left side. And then once you've done that, draw the arrow to the right side and label it predicts. So now a statement conveying knowledge predicts on that arrow, and then at the end of the arrow, draw the purple box or any box. It's going to be black and white, I'm sure, on yours. And label it future outcomes. And then when you're done, just hold it up to your camera for just a second so you can. There we go, Heidi. We see yours. Yep. Thank you, Heidi. Danny, yep. We see yours. Excellent. Yep. Thanks, Megan. Denise and Joe. Outstanding. So there's an element of why do you think I did this? When we think about our working at trying to remember things for a longer period of time, what happens when you actually put something down on paper to recreate something? What's going on in your brain?
The more senses you use, the more you process information, the more it becomes kind of like muscle memory. So that we talked yesterday about, I forget what word you use, but repetition basically, and helping it solidify in your mind.
Yeah. So you're doing actually a couple things right now. You're kind of practicing, what did I just learn? So I'm writing that down. And then you're retrieving that, but you're also using the movement. So the movement of actually creating the words and the images are also related to that concept in your brain. And so now you've started to fire different neurons together in a way that's different than just seeing it on the screen. And it's important as you think about how do I make sure I remember things, to realize that actually putting it on paper can help you do that more effectively. So we're going to create a mind map, and I'm going to talk to you about the principles of mind mapping here. It's very simple. I'm going to give you a lot of examples. And this is something you can certainly play with and have fun with. There's a variety of ways you could do it. But it's a visual representation of your understanding and perspectives about, in this case, the theory of knowledge. So we want to explore what is knowledge, how do you gain it, how do you test it, how do you modify it, how do you share it, how do you make it useful? These are all elements of what we want to include in our theory of knowledge. So let's look at, when we talk about creating a mind map, well, what is a mind map? So mind maps are personal and unique representations used by professionals in all fields to capture ideas, images, plans, observations. I've used them in coaching sessions. That strategic planning map was one of mine I used with an organization. This one, represents our theory of a system mind map. So mind map is a visual representation of how you think about a topic or issue. And let me talk about the basic structure in a mind map. And it's very fluid. We're going to make it personal. So I learned about this many years ago. One of the people that created the concept of mind mapping is named Tony Buzan. There's lots of books on mind mapping these days. If you go on YouTube, you'll find dozens of different approaches that people describe it. So you begin with a central topic. In our case, it's theory of knowledge. So that's in most cases you pick your own, but this one's an assigned. What's my theory of knowledge? You can describe it in some way, but it's theory of knowledge will be our central topic. And usually you put some kind of image in that central area as well. And then you add and label branches. And we'll talk a little bit about how you do that, because there's certain structure to this that makes a difference in having the mind map be effective for you. And then you also add sub branches to those branches. So you can see it starts to look like, maybe some of our visions of what our neurons might look like in our brain sort of thing. But it's fluid, and it's related to how you think about a topic or how you've learned about a topic. And here's the basic rules. So first of all, each branch has words, and words is plural only in the tiniest sense. Usually 1 or 2 is the most you want to have on a branch. But you also have on your branches a key word attached to concepts and ideas, and then you'll see here like there's illustrations as well. Usually you want to use 1 word per branch. This makes it easier to follow your trail. If you have a whole paragraph of words, it's not as effective. People get tempted to do that, but then it's harder to follow this trail of, well, what are my thoughts? What are my ideas? Because certainly a word sparks a representation of other things in your mind, and it's easier to remember that way. Here's a mind map of somebody sketched out their week. Each day has a certain color. So colors can be very useful and helpful as you develop your mind map. So you can use, obviously, pens. I've scribbled over with crayons and things like that on some mind maps that I use, or you highlight them. And certainly you can code them with certain things. If you see repeating ideas in different parts of your mind map, you could do that. Images are very helpful. You can draw them. You can cut and paste them if you're using a computer application. Some of the representations of a mind map you saw were actually from a computer program, or there's more than 1 program available. You want to also develop associations. I see this, and then what else is the relationship that this idea has to that idea? And you can do that with arrows as you look at your mind maps. I'm going to show you some theory of knowledge mind maps from past Academy participants. So these are their actual mind maps. You'll notice they are very unique, and they're different in their approach to how they produced their image. This one I'm going to show you kind of in the developmental stage, because as I said, I ask you to submit your mind map at the end of each unit. So ultimately you'll be sending me 6 versions of your mind map. It'll be growing and developing as we go through the entire Academy. But what you're sending me is not the mind map itself, but an image, like take a picture or scan it or whatever. So this person was developing a series of, here's how these ideas relate and connect to what I'm learning. And frequently these branches are built together, but they expand branch by branch, piece by piece. And that's kind of how you build your mind map, is just a piece at a time. This person had some of our quotes that they actually wrote out on their mind map. This one's very dramatic looking. Lots of colors show up. Mind maps have your own structure. How does this idea connect to some other idea? How did I build it? This one isn't quite the traditional version. And then this person felt more comfortable doing something more like an outline. And then I think this was done in PowerPoint, this one here. So there's a variety of different images and approaches that you could take. This one's great because they color coded things after they created the map, color coded each branch because it had a representation to them. You will start and stop more than once, I think. You might want to redraw your mind map. You don't have to, but a lot of people get tempted to say, you know what, I want to restructure this or reorganize it, and that's completely okay. So the assignment is essentially create a personal mind map of what you're learning about the theory of knowledge using Dr. Deming's statement that you just sketched as a foundation. So that concept is the foundation. You don't necessarily have to draw that exact diagram, but that's the foundation of what we're looking for, is what is knowledge? How do we gain it? How do we observe it? How do we know it's right? How do we test it? Those kind of things. So you'll start by drawing an image or shape in the middle of your page, and you'll label it theory of knowledge. And then you begin to add branches with words and images. And then these quotes that I've been showing you are meant to be used to help you contribute to your mind map. So you have some content every day that you can think about. You don't have to put the quote in. You might think about the quote and then add something else to it that you think relates to a theory of knowledge based on that quote. But these are all quotes that you'll be getting. You have 4 so far, you're giving 2 each day. So what I'd like you to do is just take a couple minutes right now on a piece of paper and just sketch using one quick concept from each one of these quotes, and just do a draft mind map. Not the one that you're going to turn in or begin, but just draft a short little mind map for yourself with these elements that contribute to your understanding of the theory of knowledge based on Dr. Deming's quote on what the theory of knowledge is. Oh, this one popped up. I don't know. I'll show these in a bigger format. I think I have a bigger format for these. If you want to truly understand something, try to change it. Being on the court provides learning experiences, while remaining in the stands creates onlookers. Management is prediction. Knowledge is built on theory. Experience without theory teaches nothing. Rational prediction requires theory, and interpretation of data from a test or experiment is prediction. That's really interesting. And you're in charge of your mind. You can help it grow by using it the right way.
So should we be using just one word from each of these quotes?
And that's your choice. That's a useful way to put it onto your mind map. If that one word captures an idea. I'm not going to test and see if you've included all these quotes on your mind map. That's not the intent. The intent is to help spark ideas about, well, what are different aspects of knowledge that I can bring to this conversation about what is a theory of knowledge? How do I gain it? How do I test it? Okay, I'm going to move on with this. This is your beginning practice, and then I highly recommend work small, because there's going to be a lot. You saw there's a lot on these mind maps. Some people go out and get a larger, like 11 by 17 or ledger size piece of paper and sketch that. So we have our daily quotes for you to use in your mind mapping activity. We also have your PDSA or move to improve experiences. We'll be ending up calling them PDSA cycles pretty soon, as well as your quotes. So you'll add to your mind map each day using both your your PDSA experiences, and your theory of knowledge quotes. And you may come to it with quotes from something that showed up in one of your Teach to Learn conversations as well as you interact with people around that. And at the end of each Academy unit, you'll be sending me some version of the highest quality image you can send me. So basically, I've had people either email or text an image that they've taken a photo on their phone. That's a frequent way that people submit this. That's perfectly acceptable. And I'll ask for that as part of the assignment of Unit 10 of Here's the Things as we wrap up each unit. And then by the end of all 6 units, you'll have a complete mind map of an understanding of your unique way of looking at the theory of knowledge. So here's some guidelines, and this page itself that I'm going to show you is in the LMS in the handout section. So add to your mind map daily. This is not yet a habit for you, so somehow begin to make it a habit. Put it someplace in your day that it's a regular thing. And then without the thing is, without intentionality, you know, any practice that you're trying to implement is a problem. It's easy to overlook. So follow these guidelines provided in today's session. And for sources and thoughts thoughts and ideas, use the daily theory of knowledge quotes, and use what you learn from planning and running tests of Move to Improve or your PDSA cycles. If you use paper, pen, or pencil, try at least tabloid or ledger size, something large, 11 by 17 might be good. Manually produced mind maps are better for memory retention. We just talked about that, about why that's valuable. However, you're welcome to use a computer program or an app if you choose, if it's easier for you. You should expect to want to restart your mind map at some point. You're going, okay, this isn't quite working. And it's okay to refresh it. Even after you've turned one version in, you say, I'm going to redo something. That's okay. And you'll submit your mind map at the end of each unit, not daily. So even though I'm asking you to add to your mind map daily, it's on the assignments. I'm asking you to look at it and update it daily, but only submit it at the end of each unit. So here's our schedule of appointments for today. You'll do a Teach to Learn conversation around theory of knowledge. You will move something that you selected to move. That was part of our assignments, to pick something to move, make a prediction about what will happen when I do this. And now today you're asked to actually do it. And then begin your mind map. Then, of course, we're teaching about the theory of knowledge and applying to the project. We're moving something. Okay. And then here's 2 more quotes that are useful that we could think about with our mind map. Dr. Clayton Christensen, he wrote The Innovator's Dilemma. He was an instructor at the Harvard Business School. He's passed away. From his book, How You Measure Your Life, that's a hallmark of a good theory. It dispenses its advice in if-then statements. And just a side note, if you're adding books to a book list that you might want to read sometime, How You Measure Your Life is a very interesting and unique book around the mix of personal and business. How do I integrate those things and what's important? So he has some good approaches there. And then, of course, Toni Morrison, she said, not knowing it was hard, knowing it was harder. I love this quote. It's like taking the red pill. It's like, all right. So that's it for today. Any questions before we head out for our work? We're all good. Well, thank you for being here. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you develop as you build your own theory of knowledge mind map. It'll be fun to see that. And good luck on your moves to improve. Pay attention to what you predicted, pay attention to what actually is happening, and what are your opportunities for learning around that. We actually have a question and answer kind of form to fill out around that tomorrow. All right. All right, thank you all. See you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.